to the countdown. I'm a countdown host, MJ Book, back for another episode here in the world of the countdown. As you folks on YouTube can see, the 123 Studios has been decorated a little bit. Why? Because today it's Christmas. So for those of you out there listening or watching, happy holidays from here in the countdown. Hope your holidays will be a nice, peaceful, safe, and healthy one. Whatever your religion may be, we all have something that we celebrate around this time of year, and I hope it is a good one for you. And so happy holidays, and we hope to have a very good new year and finally have a good year as opposed to the last 2 years we have been having. So make sure you go out there, get those boosters, get your shots so we can get rid of this COVID finally. But I do hope you like the decorations here at the 123 Studios. It took me all day to do this, so I hope everybody, your decorations are as good as mine. Oof, it's pretty warm in here. The fire over, that's over there. Anyway, I'm here for a countdown, and this countdown, well, it's a Christmas themed one. Now, finding a good Christmas themed one, not too hard, because it seems movies tends to be mentioned a lot on the show. So this countdown is my favorite Christmas films. Now I'm saying films because films could be a theatrical movie, it could be a TV movie, could be a short, direct to VHS, direct to DVD, direct to Blu-ray, whatever. Just whatever your my favorite Christmas films. Now, as I go along, I may mention some honorable mentions. We'll see how this goes. Now, with Christmas, there's so many debates about Christmas movies. There are some movies that people look at as a Christmas movie that others don't. Could this go down that route? Well, you're going to find out. So, without further ado,
and here we go.
Let's get started with the countdown. This is the 10-spot countdown, and let's get it cracking with number 10 on our historic, and I'm probably using that term lightly, historic countdown. Number 10 is one of those movies that some people do not think of when they think of Christmas movies, and that's okay. But it's themed around Christmas. It just happens to diverge here and there when it comes to Christmas, just a little bit. Number 10 on the countdown, Christmas favorite Christmas movies is directed by Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus, stars Zach Galligan, Proby Cates, Hoyt Axton. It is Gremlins. Now, Gremlins is about him, a Mogwai, who's given as a gift to Zach Galligan's character by his dad, who's this wacky inventor. And he finds him in this Oriental store, and he's told about the rules of, don't feed him after midnight and don't get him wet. And of course, they disobey every single rule. He's fed after midnight. He gets wet, and these little fur balls pop up, producing more Mogwais, which at first is a good thing. These Mogwais are a little bit different. And again, these Mogwais, the rules are not being obeyed. They cocoon into a pod, and they pop out as the Gremlins. And the Gremlins multiply and take over a small town, and that's your plot. And all this is happening around the Christmas season, the silly season. Like I said, it's definitely an odd choice for some people, but this movie spawned off a sequel, and it is constantly been brought up for a third movie or a reboot. Should they do a reboot of Gremlins? I'm kind of tired of Hollywood just remaking everything. Come up with your own damn idea. Would I watch it? It would really depend on the trailer and things like that. I think it'd be really tough to try to top the original Gremlins. Even though I kind of like Gremlins too, it pales in comparison to the original. So I think it could be borderline suicide. I mean, would the special effects for the Gremlins and Mogwai be better? Of course, but they would look fake. I kind of like these effects. I remember it was about that big. I had my own Gizmo doll, and I had that thing forever. And as a little kid, yes, I would sleep with my little mogwai. And I had that thing forever until it got damaged from just, I guess, wear and tear from holding it so much. But Gremlins, number 10. Number 9. Number 9 is probably more traditional when we get to Christmas movies. It's definitely much more traditional. It's definitely a yearly tradition. It's always on every year around this time. You probably done watched it or you're getting ready to watch it. If you haven't watched it today, you watched it a few days ago. I'd be shocked if you haven't watched it. Number 9 is Frosty the Snowman. This cartoon continues to live on every single year. This thing came out in 1969 and still is going strong. And it just shows no signs of dying, this thing. I mean, we've all sung the song, you know what it's about. It's about a snowman who somehow manages to come to life. No, not Jack Frost and not the other Jack Frost movie. Just a magical snowman. And he comes to life because of that hat by a magician. And he's playing with the kitties. And it's just your typical, just goes right along with the song. Just a heartwarming kind of little flick. Not very long. It's only 25 minutes long. But it doesn't matter. It's one of those things we all at least sing the song, watch the movie. Do I watch this one every year? Not every year, but more times than not, this movie gets watched. Have I watched it so far this year? No, but I will watch it after this because the disc is right over there. So I will end up watching it as soon as this is done. I already plan to watch it later. So this will get watched. Frosty the Snowman, an instant classic from Rankin Bass, a name that definitely is familiar for animation fans. You know those names from classic animation shorts, films, and all kinds of movies. Trust me, it's a name you know back in the day. Number 9, Frosty the Snowman, classic. Number 8. Number 8 is a modern retelling of a classic Christmas tale, probably the most classic Christmas tale, taken and completely modernized. And it has happened a lot of times where things get moderned up, but sometimes they don't work. This one, I think it's a shock to a lot of people that this became such a Christmas success, and it is a part of the Christmas tradition. And I have watched this one already. Number 8, Scrooged, starring good old Bill Murray, Ghostbusters. Bill Murray, I remember when I heard about this movie, and I can tell you exactly when I first heard about this movie. And it's odd. I was watching WGN TV. I was watching a Chicago Cubs baseball game because I love watching baseball games. I love this. This is back in the day of Harry Carey and Steve Stone. And this was a history-making day because it was the first night game with the new lights at Wrigley Field. It took that long to get the lights in there. And Bill, a Cub fan, showed up in the booth. Wasn't unusual. He did that a lot. And he talked about this movie he's working on called Scrooged. And I was like, Scrooged? Are you doing the Christmas Carol? I'm like, okay, that could be interesting. Then the trailer started showing up and I watched it, and this is genius. I mean, it's Bill Murray. I know a lot of people think of Ghostbusters, as they should. It's Caddyshack. I'm not as big with Caddyshack, but Scrooge is right there, maybe just under Ghostbusters. And that's quite an accomplishment for him. I mean, Groundhog Day is up there as well, but Scrooge is just a modernized telling of Ebenezer Scrooge, where he plays this cynical television exec who is haunted by 3 spirits to teach him the lessons of Christmas and ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Karen Allen is in this. Now, you look at Karen Allen now, maybe you might not think anything of her, but there was a time Karen Allen was a beautiful, beautiful woman. Still is in a different way, but at this point, still a beautiful woman. And it's just the classic Christmas Carol tale, just told very, very, very modern. And Bill Murray plays a great Ebenezer Scrooge type character. This movie was directed by the late Richard Donner. John Forsythe's in this movie too. I just remembered. It was written by Mitch Glazer. As I said, it was based off the novel Christmas Carol, written by, of course, Charles Dickens. This is definitely a legendary movie. This thing is always on around this time of the year. It's hard not to get a chance to see this movie. I've already watched this movie for the year. This should definitely be a part of anybody's library, whether you have it on disc or whether you have it digital. I actually have it digital. I don't have the disc yet. It's one of those movies I keep meaning to buy on disc, but I have it on digital, so I'm fine. But what can I say? It is Scrooged, and it is on my list, my number 8. Number 7. Number 7, we're going to go back to the classics, back to the oldest classic on this list. This one goes way back, well, way back, as opposed to right now. Yes, even before Frosty the Snowman from 1969. And it is also based off of another classic song that we all know. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. Yes, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. You know, it's funny looking at this type of animation back then. Obviously, this could be done much better nowadays. But I've seen modern versions of this. By modern, I mean updated technology. And I hate it. I actually hate it. I much prefer this. It looks hokey as can be. It in some ways, the clarity of it makes it worse. But it's something you always watch. Now, this I have already watched. I haven't watched Frosty yet, but I have already watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it's amazing that I still watch this thing. I'm in my 40s. Why am I still watching this? Speaks to how great that this movie is. This little short movie. It's 47 minutes, so it's longer than Frosty. But it's amazing how that this thing keeps gaining strength. This is aired back to back every year with Frosty the Snowman. I believe it's on CBS that airs these movies, that airs them back to back. I do believe. I could be wrong, but it's directed by Larry Romer. I mean, there's Burl Ives, legendary voice actors in this. It's the classic tale of the song that was written by Johnny Marks about a reindeer that just has this glowing nose, and he's poked fun of and teased. And of course, he has a little friend over here who's an elf who doesn't quite mesh well with the other elves. And they garner this great friendship, and wackiness ensues around Christmas time right before Santa has to go out there and deliver those presents. Somehow this has just become a timeless classic. It's something that I do watch every year. This one I do not miss. Frosty, I may go a year without watching it. I don't go a year without watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and that's, I don't know why, but it's one of those things I do have to watch every year. I just don't know why, but I will always tune in and watch it on CBS, even though Frosty usually comes on right after it. Sometimes I'll watch Frosty, and sometimes I don't watch Frosty. It's kind of weird, but Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, an absolute classic about that misfit reindeer and his glowing nose trying to be accepted by the other bully reindeers who won't let him join in their reindeer games. And I'm not talking about reindeer games like Ben Affleck's Reindeer Games. That movie sucked. But Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, obviously instant classic and belongs on this list. It is my number 7 from 1964. So only a few years before Frosty, 5 years before Frosty the Snowman. Number 6. This might be a shock that this movie's on here. It's probably the most less known movie on this list, yet it's a movie that I love, that I own. I have this digitally. I have this VHS. I had this on DVD until it got damaged, and I bought it on Blu-ray. I even have it digital. So it's kind of rare that It can cross into the digital realm, but this one I bought on Amazon a couple of years before I finally decided to buy it on Blu-ray. Like I said, it's probably the lesser known movie. When I say it, you'll probably go, huh? Never heard of that one. That's okay. I'm used to it. Number 6 on this list is Santa Claus, the movie. Now, already, I'm sure you're going, huh? Santa Claus, the movie? Yes, Santa Claus, the movie. This movie came out in 1985. Are there any noteworthy actors in this movie? Yeah, there are. There's a couple of them in this movie. Dudley Moore, you may know him from the Arthur movies. John Lithgow is in this movie. The late Burgess Meredith is in this movie. So there's some people noteworthy that you would know and recognize. This movie just tells the tale of how Santa Claus became Santa Claus. Now, does it hold up well as far as holiday movies? Probably not to some, but I do watch this every year. I don't know why this movie grabbed a hold of me for some reason, but it did. It really did. I like this telling of Santa Claus. And they found a great actor to do it. David Huddleston was perfect as Santa Claus. He was believable as Santa Claus. For those kids out there, I know he's not the real Santa Claus, but he does work for him. All right. He did work for him. So you have to get permission from Santa to play Santa in the movie. So he got permission to play as Santa by Santa. He got special permission. All right, kids, don't worry. He wasn't the real one. But like I said, this just tells the tale of how Santa got to become Santa and how he has his flying reindeer and how he's able to just not age, it appears, and his magic and all the elves building the toys. And it tells the whole story, even tells you how he could live out of the North Pole and nobody see him. It even goes down that route. It tells you how it is that nobody sees them. So it's a goofy movie. I know it. If you watch it, you would think, oh, good God, that absolutely sucks. But it tells the tale of this village toy maker who just likes making toys and giving them to people. And from that becomes not just delivering toys to just a small village, but to the whole world on one night. That's quite a tale. And for some odd reason, it's a tale that I like and I watch every year. This is usually the first Christmas movie I watch. It's usually this. And to be honest, it might get watched a second time before Christmas shows up. I guarantee you I will watch this later today. I guarantee you I will end up watching this. I usually end up watching this twice in December, at least twice. Once when we first get in December and right near Christmas, within a day or two of Christmas, I will end up watching this movie. So number 6 is Santa Claus, the movie. We have reached the top half. We got up to this top half pretty doggone quick. I thought this countdown might go a little too quick. So far, it's going rather quick. Maybe I should slow this thing down. But, and I'm going to mention just a few honorable mentions. I'll take some time here to name some honorable mentions. Honorable mention, or should I say a merry mention. It's from 1965, Charlie Brown Christmas. Miracle on 34th Street, the 1994 version, not the original, the remake. The Snowman from 1982. Babes in Toyland from 1961. I like Batman Returns, so I will put it as a merry mention from 1992. Die Hard 2. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to throw Die Hard in this. Die Hard. No. But I will say A Christmas Horror Story from 2015. It is a really odd movie. If you've never seen that, it's definitely not a Christmas movie for the kiddies. So kids, stay away from that one. That one is for the adults. That one's for mommy and daddy. Kids, don't watch that one. So there's my honorable mentions, or my merry mentions. So let's continue on with this countdown with number 5. Number 5 is another classic. This is played every year. I do watch this every year. I own this one on Blu-ray and DVD. Pardon me, as I take a sip of water. I do own this one on DVD and Blu-ray, and I'm glad I own this one. This one did get remaked a few times, including a live action version of it, which absolutely is fucking horrible. Um, there's no nice way of putting it. Number 5 on this list, though, is the classic, the great How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the animated short from 1966, just a couple years after Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We all know this tale. We all know the story about the Grinch. And now, like I said, this is short. It's only 26 minutes long, but it tells the tale of the Grinch. And this was marvelously written by the legendary Dr. Seuss. It just tells the tale of this grumpy hermit who hates everything, and he decides he can't stand the Who's down in Whoville. They annoy the heck out of him, and Christmas really gets on his nerves. And so he decides, you know what? I'm going to steal Christmas. And so he hatches this evil, evil plan to steal Christmas. And he goes to those Who's and he steals Christmas. And that's the movie. That's the movie. And of course, the best part is while he's stealing Christmas, that song, "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." You know, that song is classic. I actually have that soundtrack. That song is legendary. I do listen to that song. I'll watch the movie, that animated movie, and I will listen to that song at least once during the holidays. It's a classic movie, and it's one of those few things as far as in holiday music that I will listen to. There's a few things I listen to. There's a Boyz II Men Christmas album that I listen to. Sorry, but I do like I have a South Park Christmas album. I love listening to that thing around this time. I know it's wrong, it's evil, but I just love listening to it. Of course, this got a live action movie which stars Jim Carrey, and it's bad. It was bad. Not as bad as Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers. That is far worse. I mean, they're both bad. But if I had to choose between the Grinch and the Cat in the Hat, I will take the Grinch any day. The Cat in the Hat is unadulterated torture. But this animated movie is perfect in every way. I have actually seen some updated versions of this as far as animation. And just like Rudolph, they suck. It's one of those things you don't need to touch it. This is one of those timeless classics that you just need to leave alone. There's no reason to mess with it. You want to make it clear, fine, but don't mess with it. Don't, just leave it as it is. And it's an absolute classic. I have already watched this. This is one of those that sometimes I do watch a couple of times because I do like this animated movie. It's only 26 minutes long. Come on, it's not that long, but it's timeless. It lives forever. It's actually so good. It's one of those few things that's Christmas movie that I will watch outside the holiday because I do think it's that good, which is why I own it. It's a classic. Love it. Holidays are not the holidays without the Grinch, and that's why he makes it on this list as my number 5. Number 4. It's amazing what can become popular. Certain movies just out of the blue become hits, and you can't explain why. And then they get sequels. And sometimes the sequel is just absolute garbage. This one is not. Unfortunately, it would become absolute garbage with the endless spray of sequels that came after this one. But this one was still very good, very much on par, and just barely is not better than the original, which that should tell you what else will be on here a little later, because I just gave it away and I don't care. So right now, number 4 on this list, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Home Alone 2, it's really tough to make a sequel, especially when the original is so damn successful. And to make a sequel to Home Alone It took some guts. It took a lot of guts, but they did it. And this is right on par. Once again, Kevin McAllister. You know, at the time, I thought this was the luckiest kid in the world. I'm like, why can't I get that lucky? It's 1 year after he'd already been left home for the holidays, and family is going to Miami. And Kevin is upset because there's no snow and, you know, no Christmas trees. You know, he's not happy about going down to Miami. And at first, it looks like they done forgot him again, but they didn't. And right as they leave, you see a newspaper that says, "The Wet Bandits escaped." You remember the Wet Bandits. And while in the airport, he's messing around with a little piece of technology from back in the day that I had. I'm not going to go down that thing, but he's looking at his dad's coat, and his dad kind of is going off, and somebody wearing a very similar coat runs in front of him, and Kevin starts following him. Well, that guy's going to New York. Dad is going to Miami. Kevin gets on the plane. He looks around. He doesn't see his dad, and he says that line, you know, that his parents are on their way to Miami, and I'm on my way to New York. My family's in Miami, and I'm in New York. And it's classic comedy ensuing again. And he tricks his way into the hotel, and this stars the legend. It's Tim Curry, an absolute legend. The gags in this movie, you would think they were replayed from the first, and I can understand if people say it, but damn it, they're so funny. And these two, the Wet Bandits, they are on par with villainy and comedy. It is still funny to see somebody like him in a movie like this. If you're so used to seeing Joe Pesci as this mobster type character where he's just swearing, but in this movie, instead of the swearing, he's that's his swearing, and it's hysterical. And the beating that these two got in the first movie, oh, it pales in comparison to the beating they take in this. I mean, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York is an absolute classic. I do own this on Blu-ray. I have this still on VHS. I still have my VHS copy of this movie. It took me a while to finally own it. I never had it on DVD, believe it or not. I just kept watching my VHS version. Finally, I was like, you know what? You need to upgrade. So finally, I said, the hell with it, and I went and bought it on Blu-ray. But Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, it's one of the few times a sequel is very successful, and this made a lot of money. And unfortunately, it garnered a sequel, and it's at that moment where it just goes downhill. I think there's been like 3 or 4 Home Alone movies, and I think there's another one that came out this year. It got ridiculous. It got way too ridiculous. But this is the movie. I mean, this era of movies that this youngster right here, he became an absolute star. Macaulay Culkin became a huge star. From Uncle Buck to this, he became a star. What was it? The good child, the good one, or whatever, the good brother or something, where he plays an evil little kid. My Girl, where if you've seen My Girl, you know what happens to him. That was a shocker. He became an absolute star, and of course, that being a child star is, we've seen it. It's rough, and he went through a rough patch, but he has come out on the other side. And he's cleaned himself up, and he seems a lot better and a lot happier. And that's a good thing. And he has his own podcast too. So definitely go and check that out. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, an absolute classic and so close to the original. Earns its spot, though, proudly on this list. Number 4, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Number 3, I think you already know that I already kind of hinted to this. So let's just not mince any words. We know what it is. It's Home Alone 1, the original. The original. The one that started this whole mess. I mean, I think that proves how great these movies are. It's rare on my list that I will have sequels on the same list together with an original. It's rare, but it speaks to how good this franchise was at this point until they lost control. and they definitely lost control. Directed by Chris Columbus, of course, written by the legendary John Hughes, both these movies, starring Macaulay Culkin and Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. This is the original with the kid getting left home. You know, he's got his brothers are dicks and his uncle is dick. He just his family, he just thinks of them all as just dicks, and he just can't stand them. And they lock him upstairs, and they're in a rush to get to their flight, and they just forget him. They just forget him, and they don't realize it until they're on the plane. And Catherine O'Hara, who back in the day, I have a thing for redheads, and back in the day, she was a beauty. And she's sitting on the plane. She's like, I think we've forgotten something. And John Hurd, who's also in the movie, says, what could we have possibly forgotten? And she's sitting there and she leans up, Kevin. And now it's the comedy ensuing of trying to get home. And Kevin is just living life at home. And of course, the Wet Bandits, who aren't the Wet Bandits yet, at least by name totally. Eventually, they get that name in the movie because they're breaking in a house, and he likes to leave the sink on while it's overflowing. He says it's our signature. We're the Wet Bandits. It's just so stupid. The sad thing is, when I was a kid, I was like, burglars can't be this dumb. They are that dumb. I mean, we've all seen criminals, those criminal programs. They can be incredibly stupid. So it's not that far off, I guess. But the legendary John Candy is in this movie. Rest in peace to John Candy. Again, this is just a classic series. Everything I said about the original or the sequel, you could say about this, except the fact, obviously, there's no Tim Curry in this. It's not in New York, but it's still the same kind of comedy. When he's shaving and he puts the aftershave on, all that. I remember I had this Nintendo game. I had the Nintendo game for Home Alone, which was shockingly difficult. It was shockingly difficult, that game. This is another classic. I own this one as well, just like I do Home Alone 2. Watched the VHSs far too many times. Didn't have a DVD, own it on Blu-ray. I bought a box set with Home Alone 1 and 2. It was only like $10, but it's both of them on Blu-ray. So I was like, you know what? Just do it. You have them both. I wanted to get the special edition for this, but it was $70. And I was like, no, I'm not going to spend that much on Home Alone. But Home Alone movies are classics. Both these movies are amazing. Again, they made way too many sequels, and it kind of lost its allure. But the first two movies, I actually have watched Home Alone 3, and somehow I tricked myself into watching the fourth one, and that's where I stopped. Because it's a different kid. It becomes a different kid each time. I get it. It can't be the same kid, because goodness gracious, that would mean these are the worst parents in history. But it just got to be a bit much. And obviously they knew it, because these things started becoming direct to DVD. They weren't even going to theater anymore. So it's kind of hard to capture the magic that they had back then with Home Alone 1 and 2. They keep trying and they keep failing. Sometimes you just need to leave it alone and let it go. You're never going to capture that. I've even heard they want to remake the original Home Alone. You don't need to. You're not going to find another kid like Macaulay Culkin. You're just not. This was just lightning in a bottle. You won't do it. Let it go. We have our Home Alone. We have our Home Alone kid. We have our Wet Bandits. You're not going to top these two idiots. You're just not going to top them. So in back-to-back, which is rare for me to have the sequels being back-to-back, but these movies earned it. They earned their spots on this list. Number 3 from 1990, Home Alone. Home Alone 2 was in 1992, back-to-back 3 and 4. Quite an accomplishment. Runner-up. What is the runner-up? What could be the runner-up? Simple. The runner-up is so good that this movie gets played not once, not twice, not 3 times. This thing gets played for 24 hours straight every year. you're probably watching it right now, or you just got done watching it, or you're about to watch it. 24 hours, and they do it every year. I don't know how they get away with it. I don't know how there's an audience for it, but they still do it. Number 2, the runner-up is A Christmas Story. This, I would be shocked if people don't have this movie on their list. It is hands down probably become the biggest Christmas movie ever. I mean, at times it just feels like it is the biggest Christmas movie ever. Obviously, I own this movie, owned it on VHS, owned it on DVD, owned it on Blu-ray. This is an absolute classic following this kid in his search, his hunt, his dedication to get that Red Ryder BB gun. And of course, being told endless times that he'll shoot his eye out. And it just tells this, it takes place in the 1940s. Kid's name is Ralphie, and he's desperately trying to convince his parents, Santa, teacher, that he wants that Red Ryder BB gun. For him, it's the perfect Christmas gift. And it's just this tale around the holidays, dealing with his best friends at school, dealing with bullies, dealing with his loving mother and his somewhat strange dad. His affinity for soap. If you've watched the movie, you already know what I mean by that. And some rather unique lighting equipment. If you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. This movie is based off a novel, actually, by Gene Shepard. The novel is called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. That's the name of the novel. That's just what it is. It's directed by Bob Clark, who also did the screenplay for this. It's amazing how this movie became a classic. There's no way in the world when they made this movie they thought it was going to become as big as it did, but it did. And it airs for 24 hours. I think it's on TBS or TNT. I own it, so I don't have to watch it for 24 hours anymore like I used to. Plus, I don't watch regular TV anymore like I used to. But back in the day when I was watching regular TV, I did. I would watch this back to back a good 12 hours, straight up 12 hours. Don't know why, don't know how I did it, but I would do it back to 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 back. I would just keep going. Christmas Story, absolute classic. It's amazing that this movie has lived on and continues to garner popularity, and it earns its spot on this list as number 2, the runner-up. I guarantee you've watched this movie already today or about to. It's probably on right now. So number 2 is A Christmas Story. We are almost at number 1. And my camera, as I can see, it's fogging up. So I'm going to do something real quick. Y'all aren't going to like this. Just give me a second. See if that straightens it out. It did not. Okay. We're just going to have to live with it. All right. I managed to get this far with the camera not malfunctioning. Technical flaws. Number 1. It just straightened up. Good. Before we get to number 1, let's do a quick review of what got us up here. Number 10 is the 1984 movie Gremlins. Number 9, Frosty the Snowman from 1969. Number 8, Scrooged from 1988. 7 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from 1964. 6 is Santa Claus the Movie from 1985. 5 is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the animated version from 1966. 4 is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York from 1992. 3 is Home Alone, the classic original from 1990. And number 2 is A Christmas Story from 1983. What on earth is number 1? Some of you might be thinking something like It's a Wonderful Life. I hate to break it to you, but no, it is not on this list. It's not a merry mention. I actually do not like that movie, not one bit. To quote Batman from Batman the Animated Series, I could never get past the title. I could never get past the title. And it's so true. I just couldn't do it. So that movie is not on here. Don't even look for it. Is it a movie I remember my mom watching a lot? The Gathering. No, but that is an honorable mention or a merry mention. The number one Christmas movie to me, my favorite. And I have to say only one thing. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. That's right. It is Die Hard, baby. Die Hard. Look, I know that this is one of those movies that people fight a lot about, that this is not a Christmas movie. I'm sorry. It is totally a Christmas movie. It is a weird Christmas movie, definitely, but it garners the Christmas spirit totally in it. He's home to see his kids for the holidays and to rekindle that relationship with his family, his wife, who's at her job, a Christmas party. So some terrorists show up. So some people, get shot or, blow up or thrown out of a window, So there's some extracurricular activities going on around it. But the movie ends with, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. I mean, come on. It's a Christmas movie. Completely, totally, utterly. It's just an odd one. But Die Hard from 1988, of course, directed by John McTiernan, based off of a novel by Roderick Thorpe, which would later actually get a movie again, Skyscraper, which is starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This movie, of course, stars Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman, Bonnie Bedelia. It's just like I just said, it's just this New York police officer who's trying to rekindle that relationship with his family and his wife. And they're at a Christmas party. He's at the Christmas party when these terrorists show up at Nakatomi Plaza in LA, and all hell breaks loose. And the police come and they're hanging around on the outside. And that's where we meet another signature character, Sergeant Al Powell, played by Reginald Vell Johnson, who would only be known for playing cops, it seemed, whether it be Die Hard cops or a Family Matters cop. He even was on CSI too. So, like I said, this movie is an absolute classic. Yes, it's the oddest choice for a Christmas movie. And of course, Dwayne T. Robinson in it. I am Dwayne T. Robinson. I'm in charge of this situation. And John, well, you're in charge. Well, I got some bad news for you, Dwayne. From up here, it doesn't look like you're in charge of jack shit. You listen to me, you little asshole. Asshole. I'm not the one that just got butt fucked on national TV, Dwayne. I mean, there's so many lines in this movie. Come out to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I mean, just all kinds of lines are in this movie. And William Atherton playing Thornburg, and of course, Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, the late Alan Rickman, rest in peace. Hans Gruber is one of those few bad guys that you found yourself at times rooting for because you liked him. You actually liked him. And you're like, I shouldn't be liking you. I should want you dead. But Hans is such a likable character. He's not the typical bad guy that you see in these things. He's so intelligent, so likable, so calm, so relaxed through most of this damn movie. It's amazing. And of course, a lot of that is not just because of the way the character was written, but because of who was playing him. I don't think anybody could have played Hans Gruber better than Alan Rickman. You found the right person, and he made that role legendary. In fact, I've mentioned this list I'm working on, my favorite heroes and villains of cinema. It's a big list. I've been working on that list, I am not kidding, for over a year. It's that big because I'm covering all cinema, all the heroes and villains. That takes a long time, folks. I don't know when I'm going to get that thing done, but I'm still working on it. You got to think Hans Gruber is probably going to pop up on that list. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Because right now that list is ridiculously high. I'm trying to think who else. Argyle. How could I forget the limo driver? Argyle. hanging out with the bear in his limo in the parking garage. Bonnie Bedelia back in the day, I thought she was a beautiful woman personally. Uh, Alexander Gutendorf, who played Carl. There's so many. Hart Bachner, who played Ellis, that drunken idiot. I mean, just there are so many standouts in this movie. It's ridiculous. And this would bring about a franchise that was very successful. Die Hard 2, Die Harder is a very good movie. In fact, I was making it up earlier. It is an honorable mention. I was just messing with y'all. It's an honorable mention. Die Hard with a Vengeance, the third one. There's a lot of people who argue that's the best one of the franchise. And I don't have a problem with people saying it. Live Free or Die Hard. This is when the split can start to happen. Some people really don't like that movie. I happen to like the director's cut version, not the theatrical version, because I remember the theatrical version actually edited Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I'm like, what? Did you just edit that? Why did you edit that? You have to get the director's cut and you can hear the whole thing. I don't know why they did that. It was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. But I actually like Live Free or Die Hard. It's when we get to a good time to Die Hard, when he goes to Russia. That's where it got to be too much. And they keep planning on doing this prequel, supposedly called McClane, whether it takes place after all this, whether it takes place between some of these movies, or whether it's a True Blood prequel that takes place before the events of this movie, Die Hard. Who knows if it'll even ever get done? I mean, if it's a prequel, obviously it won't be Bruce Willis. Clearly, he's too old to be doing a young John McClane. Who knows when this will ever happen? Will I watch it? Sadly, yes, I will watch it. I'm a Die Hard fan. I own all the movies, even A Good Time to Die Hard. I own it, and I just don't watch it. I have it, but it is not good. I bought a box set of the original 3. So I own those more than anything, because I had those on VHS, I have those on DVD, and I have those on Blu-ray. But Die Hard, it's a classic, and that makes it, for me, the number one favorite Christmas movie. I don't care what you think. It is a Christmas movie. It is 100% a Christmas movie. And you know it's a Christmas movie, or else you wouldn't be fighting that it is. You know it is. It's totally a Christmas movie. Anyway, there it is. That is our 10 favorite Christmas movies. What do you think? What are some of your favorite Christmas movies? Did I forget one? Do you have your own list you'd like to share with me? What do you think of the movies I have? Would you reorder them? Would you reshuffle? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about Christmas. Tell me, what you want to get for Christmas. Just send me whatever you want to send me. There's plenty of ways, of course, that you can get a hold of me here at The Countdown. If you're watching it on YouTube, just look down there and you can see every method to get in touch with me. If you're not on YouTube and you happen to be listening to the show, you can send an email to thecountdown2020@gmail.com. You can search on Facebook. Just search at The Countdown 2020 Podcast 1. On Twitter, just search at The Countdown PO1. I'm on Instagram. Just search The Countdown 20. You can go on Spotify and listen to every episode. Just search The Countdown 2020. I'm on Amazon Audible. Just search The Countdown Podcast. iHEART Radio. Search The Countdown Podcast. On Podbean, through which all the episodes are released through. Just search The Countdown Podcast. Or you can go directly to the website through Podbean, which is thecountdown2020.podbean.com. And of course, if you're already watching it, you already know. But YouTube, just search The Countdown Podcast with MJ Book. And all that information I just said is right there behind me. If you're on YouTube, like I said, go down here. Please tell your friends to listen to the show. Please like, listen, follow, subscribe. It's how this show is able to continue, is with your success. It's how we are marching toward getting ready to end season 2, to get to season 3, and the march to get to 100 episodes. I'm getting closer and closer. I'll be getting to 70 here in a couple of episodes. So the march continues to get to 100. Come on, help me out here. Also want to take this time to throw out a thanks to Buzzing with Marlo. He just recently was on. We were counting down our favorite wrestling faces, the good guys and gals. I've been on his show a couple of times, so please listen to Buzzing with Marlo. Look him up. You can just look him up through the internet. He's it's not going to be that hard. Just type in Buzzing Marlo. Trust me, you'll find him. He's also does another podcast, The Commission Talks. Follow those guys as well. I've watched those guys over on Facebook. Of course, Third Generation Wrestling. Third Generation Wrestling is getting ready to celebrate its year end as well. So please follow those guys. Of course, Eric, Rob, those are the hosts. They've been on the show numerous times. I'm a contributor on the show, as well as the good brother Blake, and of course the doctor of wordonomics himself. It's always fun being on those episodes. So please search Third Generation Wrestling. They're available through pretty much all the avenues I just said and Google Podcast. So look them up. As far as what's happening here on the in the future for the countdown, like I said, once this year is over, as December has been very busy, the march to getting to the end of this season begins. And I'm already, once we get to January is when I will start preparing for the year end here, which is in March. I started the show in March, so it's always March. It's weird, I know, but that's when we hit the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3. I don't know how season 3 is going to start yet, because I haven't thought that far ahead yet. But once January hits, that's when I start thinking. And of course, got the year end coming in for that. Don't know who I'll have come in for me on that one. Hopefully I can get the same group I had last time, which was Eric and Rob. Those were great episodes that we did when we reviewed the year of the countdown. Of course, I'll end up doing my favorite episodes, of course, just like I did that year. It's shaping up to be a good year for the countdown again. This has been the biggest year so far. And so I want to take this time to thank everybody who's been a guest on the countdown. For all of you who have been listening to the countdown, no matter where you are in the world, I thank you for listening, for watching wherever you are, whether you listened once, twice, few times, or if you listen every single time. I thank you very, very much, and definitely want to take this time. Happy holidays. Have a happy new year from here in the countdown on behalf of Third Generation Wrestling. And I'll be a little presumptuous on that probably. On behalf of Buzzing with Marlo, on behalf of the Commission Talks, just any show that I listen to pretty much. On behalf of everybody, anybody I know, thank you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And one more thing. Why do I always forget this? I want to thank Incomtech.com for the royalty-free music. Kevin MacLeod, Ice Flow that you hear before every episode. I don't know why I always forget that. Sorry, Kevin. Happy holidays to you too, sir. Thank you for allowing me to use your music for the last 2 seasons. And we're carrying that into season 3. So now that I was able to remember that, sorry again, Kevin. Happy holidays, happy new year. And I will catch you all again on the next episode, which will be more than likely 2022. I'll catch you on the countdown. Have yourself a great holiday season. Spend it with your loved ones. Spend it with your family. And thank you once again for listening. Have a great one. Bye-bye.